We're sitting down with Don Cooper, the president of the Juno Beach Center Association. Thank you, Don, for sitting down with us today.
My pleasure.
Juno Beach, the 75th anniversary is coming up in June. Now, tell me about the team and how it came together, the Juno Beach Center.
Well, it started with the 14th Field Regiment Veterans Association. Actually, they had the idea that they were going to take their association and hand it over to the children. It wasn't a very practical idea. The children didn't have the same connections that basically the veterans did. But it perpetuated their charity and association at the time. And it evolved first into some trips back to visit the battlefields and some Dutch children that came over to Canada on visits, some exchanges. And Garth, in the process of, and my mother, in the process of doing that, sort of recognized that Canada's story wasn't getting told. It was basically all about the British and the Americans, and yes, we were there, but certainly not, our contribution wasn't being recognized. So like many things, it was just take that small step for mankind, and you never know what you end up with. The idea was to basically put a museum in, get it funded. It wasn't on the scale or scope that we see today, but it was the idea that got planted, and we started developing it. And I recall at one point we said to Garth, people are willing to give you money, you got to decide whether you're going to take it or not. And it was small contributions, nothing big, but just a team of dedicated veterans, their supporters like myself and others. And step by step, we had 10,000 suddenly in the bank, and then 30,000, and doing some marketing and sending the message out. And eventually, the thing just grew to the point where, bad news one day where we lost the opportunity to put the museum in Bernier-sur-Mer resulted in a much grander site in Corso-sur-Mer, and a much better site, and a dedicated mayor locally that helped us out and gave us the opportunity as we grew to have what you see today, basically. It didn't start as an objective to do something that grand, but we just kept changing the goalposts and moving them basically forward and changing the vision in terms of scope of what we wanted to do.
Juno Beach and the landings is known as the beginning of the end of the Second World War. Do you think Canadians recognize that testament and that vision and that sacrifice?
I don't think there's any question that they do, but every new generation coming up, every new class of kids coming up basically has to be re-educated and be informed. So no, there's tremendous empathy, and I think that's what made us successful in a way. We were basically got the Juno Beach built by Canadians, by average Canadians. We tried to get sort of the big dollar donors to help financially in the early days, and frankly we were unsuccessful. It wasn't working. They were all spoken for, and there were no big checks being written. And we did it with the little checks, and those little checks added up, and we got Walmart involved to enable us to spread that message widely and literally collect $1 at the cash, and those dollars when it's Walmart add up tremendously. So it was a grassroots fundraising effort that we were forced into in a sense, but that was tremendously successful in terms of engaging Canadians, to answer your question, in what we were doing, and they were fully engaged.
Now, engaging into the future, what is your vision for the Juno Beach Center and the association?
Basically, we've outlined a strategic plan over the next 20 years, actually, that envisions us getting bigger and spreading that message even wider. We have a number of projects on the go. There's a pedestrian walkway to take in more visitors from the center of the town. So we think we can up our traffic by about 10,000 people a year just through that. We have bunkers and works from the period that we've been uncovering over the years. We spent quite a bit of money in terms of digging out the sand from these bunkers, reconditioning them, and now a very popular Juno Park tour for visitors who come, who get an appreciation of basically the works that were on the site and the battles that were fought basically right on that site.
And I've had a privilege of attending the Juno Beach Center in France. For those who haven't, can you describe the experience at the Juno Beach Center?
We set out to basically tell a story. And we didn't start as a museum in the sense of having artifacts. We do now. We've collected things to enhance the story we tell. But we started from the beginning with the idea we're telling a story about Canada's contribution in World War II. And we wanted to do it in a very advanced fashion in terms of the use of digital media and storytelling. And that's what you see at the Juno Beach Center. You get a chronological story of Canada's contribution in all elements, air, sea, land, and done in an interesting way where your emotions are taken up, taken down, and you get a really good education that can go as deep or as shallow as you want in terms of just getting an appreciation for what Canada did. And you're on the site. You can go outside after you've finished that and get a real appreciation for basically where the battle was fought. That key first day was fought at any rate.